I've had a lifelong passion in nutrition, really dating back as far as I can remember. So what I grew to love to do was prevention and health promotion. All the things that I was seeing in my practice were truly preventable through diet and lifestyle. Frankly, I realized that I could change many, many more lives by leaving that practice and devoting myself to wellness education.
Make sure you know what lies at the root of my wild and crazy enthusiasm for this topic. And the simple one-word answer is science. I want to get you excited, right? I want to first move your hearts and move your souls before I move your brains and your muscles. Get you really excited about where this trip will take you.
The summer of 2008, I got very, very sick. My sugar was way over 300. They had me on insulin. 9 months later, I was still sick, under 10 doctors, not getting well, on lots of medication.
And here's the important, motivating side of things. It is almost totally under your personal control. Totally, whether or not you're going to get it. Did you know that? 97% at least of insulin resistance is preventable. If the lay public really knew, scientifically, what these foods could do, there would be no produce left on the grocery shelves. Have your carbs, eat your carbs. Why? Because they're arguably the most important food for the human body. And it makes no sense to take foods out of your life that have been proven to help you be leaner and proven to guard and protect your health. If you're not quite ready to do it yet for you, then do it for the people that love you so much.
And I read this in her book, but there's something about the enthusiasm of hearing her speak. And when she started talking about insulin resistance, it just seemed like a light bulb came on, and I wanted to know more about it.
So the name of this diet could also be, or this plan could also be the Great Sex Diet. That would be sure to sell books, I'm sure. Okay.
I promise I'm a real doctor, I just don't act like one. The foundation of your diet doesn't have to be exclusive. I'm not a vegan, I'm not a vegetarian, but the foundation of your diet should largely be comprised of plant-based foods.
The message I'm going to share is actionable and it can absolutely transform health.
When Dr. Ann said, if you do not have type 2 diabetes, you do not have to get it. And if you do have it, you can reverse it. She's the first doctor that ever told me that. I've reversed mine. I am so healthy now. My doctors don't believe it. Nobody believes the change that has come over my life.
I celebrate the right foods in my house every single day. I never stop talking about them in a positive way.
There's no way that I could do what I do, whether it's speaking or writing, and do it with the energy and the authenticity and the conviction that it really requires, unless I do it myself. I don't just walk my talk. I promise you, I run it.
And they're showing you that they're just as enthusiastic and wild and crazy about fruits and vegetables as their mother. Why? Because every single day, and it's been this way a long time, I celebrate the right foods in my house. Every single day. I never stop talking about them in a positive way because that's what makes people motivated, makes them do it, right? So it's like, oh my gosh, look how beautiful this apple is. Now taste it. Oh, it's so sweet and crunchy and juicy. That's what I do. People don't respond to, if you don't lose weight, you're going to die. They respond to, guess what? If you lose weight, you're going to feel so much better, right? And I know, anyway. So a couple things about fruits and vegetables that will summarize for you how I feel about them. If people knew what I knew scientifically about this category of food to totally transform health at every level, they would do just what I do, which is never miss an opportunity to pop another one in my mouth. Never. In fact, if there's some carrots right there, I'd lean over and eat them right now on the spot. Because each and every time you take a fruit or vegetable in, on the spot, you are improving your health. And that's incredibly empowering, right? The other thing I will say to kind of, again, try to give you perspective as far as how valuable they are, is if the lay public really knew scientifically what these foods could do, there would be no produce left on the grocery shelves, no way, and they would absolutely have to have guards in there because you would be fighting over the broccoli, you would be fighting over the carrots, you'd be fighting over apples, you'd be fighting over all of it. No question about it. You just don't know what I know. All right? So you say, well, wow, now you've piqued my interest. So what's the deal? Why? Why are they so special? Well, you already know this part. They're filled with vitamins, minerals, fiber. They're naturally low in calories, and that is great. But guess what? That's the tip of the iceberg. This is what really launches them up into the realm of superstardom. Disease-busting phytochemicals. Phyto meaning plant. So, and this is one of the most exciting areas of nutrition. The first phytochemical we just discovered 25 years ago. Since that time, we've identified 10,000 different ones. We estimate there's 100,000 left for us to learn about. And I will tell you, drug companies could only dream of creating drugs that do what these chemicals do in the human body with the greatest of ease and no side effects. Absolutely remarkable. Remarkable. Okay? So you say, wow, well, like, what do they really do for me? Well, phytochemicals developed in plants over the eons to protect plants from various environmental insults. And what we now know is when we eat plant foods, which house these phytochemicals, they do the same thing for us. So they allow us to stay alive and thrive and fight off all these flippin' environmental insults like the flippin' donuts and the trans fats and the fructose, right? All right. And I like to use this metaphor. This is the phytoshield. The phytoshield. To try to, in a simple way, explain what phytochemicals do in your body. Think of them as this all-powerful shield that each and every one of your cells has, that guards and protects the cell from all the things that could damage it. And at the end of the day, any disease you can name to me, any sickness you can name to me, is ultimately caused by some kind of cellular damage. Whether it's damage to your cell membrane or damage to your DNA, that's what makes us ultimately get sick. So the phytoshield, you got that phytoshield there? Guess what? They can't damage you, all right? And the science is quite complex, but there's 4 basic things they do. So when you distill down all the phytochemical science and what they do in the body and all those reactions, we can boil it down to 4 key features. Many of them have potent anti-inflammatory power. And you say, well, I don't care about that. I don't have arthritis. Guess what? You need to care about it because you know what we now know? And I don't expect you to know this, but I'm going to fill you in. Inflammation is the key driver of almost every single chronic disease. We've just learned this in the last decade, right? Heart disease, high blood pressure, gaining weight, Alzheimer's, cancers, diabetes, anything you can name to me. Inflammation at the cellular level is a huge part of why you get it and the promotion of it. So one of the hottest things going on in my world is teaching people how to eat and live in such a way that inflammation is kept in check, right? And here's a great thing to know. A lot of these things have potent anti-inflammatory power. Immune boosting power. Your immune system is how you don't get cancer, and it's how you don't get infections. When you take in plant foods that have the phytochemicals, each time you do it, it gets a nice turbocharge. All right, now let's move on to the right carbs, right? And people are so excited, including me. We can have our carbs. Have your carbs, eat your carbs. Why? Because they're arguably the most important food for the human body. And it makes no sense to take foods out of your life that have been proven to help you be leaner and proven to guard and protect your health, right? So have your carbs. And the first one we're going to talk about are great grains, whole grains, 100% whole grains, nothing less than 100%. You say, well, how do I be sure when I'm having a grain product, how can I be sure it's 100%? And I say it's real easy. Look for 100% on that label. If it's there by law, it has to be, because it can get very, very tricky. Labeling laws are such that they can call a food a whole grain product, like whole wheat bread, whole grain bread, whole grain, as long as most, what is most? 51%. You might be getting 49% great white hazard flour if you do something that's not 100%. So why do we want you to do 100% whole grains? Because look at this. They work in your body totally opposite of the bad carbs. The great white hazards make you sick and fat. The good carbs make you well, help you not get disease, and help you be leaner. First of all, they're more slowly digested because they're chemical and physical structure. So you don't get a blast up of glucose and insulin. You get a nice, gradual, soft, gentle response that's great for your metabolism. They are filled with health-boosting nutrients, vitamins and minerals and lignans and phytochemicals and antioxidants, all sorts of wonderful fibers. They have emerged as the most protective category of food to not get diabetes. Herbs and spices, the picture says it all, because they have such high concentrations of phytochemicals, they are truly medicinal. Literally, think of herbs and spices as drugs that are really cheap, highly effective, free of side effects, and simply make my food taste better.
Maybe the most valuable and important reason to consume the right carbs is because those are the foods that give us fiber. And fiber is on a roll in a way you can't imagine, scoring one health victory after another, particularly in this regard, because we know that fiber is what feeds the good bacteria in the gut, better known as the microbiome. So, if you don't know it, you are not just you. You are actually a meta-organism. You need to know that. So living inside of you and thriving inside of you is this infinitely complex ecosystem of microorganisms that we call the microbiome. And what we now know, and I will tell you, this recent science is being heralded as the biggest breakthrough in biology of the last 200 years. And my 30 years of reading about science and health and medicine never has a subject matter captivated me more, wowed me more, and excited me more, and in a sense, humbled me more than what we are finding out about this, microbial menagerie known as the microbiome. So what we're now know is the microbiome appears to be what defines our health destiny. But in the last decade, particularly in the last 5, in the pace of what we're finding out is just, exploding, because it's being studied so feverishly, because there's so much promise in looking at this. So now it's absolutely, the reason you have an immune system is because of the microbiome. It is why you get it, and is what's directing it. It's the master modulator of inflammation. Remember I talked about with inflammation, what is the key driver of disease is too much inflammation. And the other big thing is metabolic health. Weight, huge impact on weight, brain health. Okay, and I could go on and I could tell you things that would blow your mind. Trust me, you just won't believe it. I don't have time. But what I want you to know right now is that microbiome is where it's at, and you need to really focus on doing everything you can to get your microbiome healthy, because we are having a huge problem in America because microbiomes are very sick. All right, what defines a healthy microbiome? 2 things. Lots of numbers, so quantity, and then lots of variety. So, and variety is even more important than the quantity, because here's what we know. To think that this is running the show in the body, each of these species and subspecies have very defined, very, very specific roles they play. It could be a tiny little role, but there's millions of those tiny little roles. And these roles are really important. In fact, some roles are keystone roles. If you have a variety of species and one gets knocked out, we've got to back up. And what's happened as a result of modern diets and modern living is the diversity of the microbiome has dramatically diminished. People are losing keystone species Their bodies are losing the ability to do things that are vitally important for health. Okay? Now, you say, all right, I'm getting it. I need numbers and I need variety. How do I get that? The single greatest thing you can do, the single greatest influence you have over your microbiome, which has really given what I do a huge shot in the arm and made it even more important today than it ever was, is through diet and nutrition. We think 60% of the influence you have over it is through what you eat. All right? You want good bacteria. There's good and there's bad. The more bad you have in you, the less the good ones can grow. They compete. The more good you have in you, the less the bad ones can establish themselves and grow. How do you get good ones? You get good ones by feeding them the foods they like. If you give them the foods they like, that means they can grow and multiply and divide and be happy and have more babies and blah, 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 blah. All right, what do they eat? The good ones eat fiber. Fiber. And not fake fiber, real fiber. Where do you get real fiber? Fruits, vegetables, whole grains, beans, nuts, and seeds. What are the bad ones like? They love McDonald's. They love Coke. They love Snickers bars. They love cookies. All that fiberless, processed, man-made, contrived foods with all these crazy flipping ingredients, like these chemicals, they love that stuff. Okay? So you must eat. All right, I'm a doctor, you can get ready to talk about this kind of stuff. I'm going to give you a good barometer of the health of your microbiome. And don't get grossed out. I mean, I can say, doctors are very comfortable talking about this stuff. Your bowel movements, your stool, 40% of the weight of your stool is bacteria. All right? You want big stools. And what you can do is you can get on the scale before you go to the bathroom and after. I do it all the time. Do it. Because I'm very proud. And if your weight does not drop by half a pound, you got some major work to do. Major work to do. And William Burke, who was the father of fiber, Burke was but he was the one that really, way back, I don't know how many years ago, way back, decades and decades ago, observed this by observing indigenous cultures that ate no processed foods, that lived purely off nature. He noted there was a whole list of diseases they never got. And he also noted they had enormous stool volumes. And in fact, he said, countries or cultures that have little stools are going to have big hospitals. He's right. Little stools, big hospitals. Okay.
Please welcome Dr. Ann.
Thank you, Andrea. Thank you, Andrea, for your introduction and for sharing your talent to moderate tonight. I'm grateful to my great friends, the Prevent Cancer Foundation and the National Museum for Women in the Arts, for the honor of being a part of this esteemed panel. And most especially, I'm grateful for the opportunity to share my passion with you. As a physician who really is on a never-ending crusade to motivate, inspire, and ultimately empower as many people as I can with the knowledge they need to live their healthiest life, nothing ignites my passion more than engaging with a live audience and sharing with them what the very best science tells us are the very best ways through diet and lifestyle to just say whoa to cancer. And before I let it fly, I'm going to make sure you know what lies at the root of my sort of wild and crazy enthusiasm for this topic. And a simple one-word answer is science, because deep down inside, I'm nothing more than a total science geek. And it just so happens that since the early 80s, there's been a virtual avalanche of rock-solid, truly mind-bending, eye-popping new science telling us loud and clear that diet and lifestyle and good health and diet and lifestyle and disease are powerfully and inextricably linked, and that we really do have enormous control over our future health destiny by being mindful of the foods and beverages that cross our lips and the lifestyle practices that we engage in day in, day out. And thankfully, cancer prevention is no exception. Based on my knowledge, there is broad scientific consensus that up to 70% of the entire cancer burden we face each and every day in this country could be prevented through healthy eating, healthy lifestyle practices, some of the strategies that Karen was referring to, and adhering to the recommended cancer screening test. And this is remarkable to think about. I mean, what a glorious reality. And so I'm here with you to share the most powerful evidence-based diet and lifestyle strategies to lower your cancer risk. And I'm specifically going to talk about 8, and the first 4 are in order of importance. So it's very important to remember that. I'll remind you as we go through. The first one is something that I'm sure you're all aware of, and that is the importance of abstaining from exposure to tobacco in any form. Do not smoke or use tobacco products. We know that tobacco is responsible for at least 30% of all cancer deaths and 80% of lung cancer deaths, okay? So strictly avoid tobacco in any form. So if you're a smoker or use tobacco products, the single most powerful thing you could do to lower your cancer risk is to stop smoking. If you're a non-smoker, the single most powerful thing you can do to lower your cancer risk is to keep your weight in the healthy range. We now know that being overweight is a convincing risk factor for many cancers, including postmenopausal breast cancer, uterine cancer, esophageal cancer, pancreatic cancer, colorectal cancer, kidney cancer, growing evidence for leukemias and lymphomas. And there's important things to understand about the relationship between body weight and cancer relative to the other diseases of which we know that being overweight is a problem for. And one of the things we see with cancer is that the risk mounts before you cross the line. The risk for cancer mounts before you cross the line from normal weight to being overweight. And so the name of the game is to be as lean as possible within the normal range of body weight. And, this is important, to do everything you can to have weight stability after the age of 21 in your adult life. Meaning, not only does your weight matter, we also see, specifically for postmenopausal breast cancer, that weight you gain after the age of 21 significantly increase your risk for postmenopausal breast cancer. What am I telling you? Let's say you're 21 and you're super lean. Your BMI is 21. Normal BMI is anything less than 25. And you're now 55, and your weight is still in the normal range, but your BMI is, let's say, 20, right at 25. You've significantly increased your risk of developing postmenopausal breast cancer. All right? So weight control, especially keeping that belly flat and keeping your weight stable as an adult, is critically important. It's second to not smoking is the most powerful thing you can do to lower your overall cancer risk. Number 3, be physically active every day. And I'm so passionate about the virtues of physical activity because I've read the science and I just remain in total awe of what we know about regular physical activity and what it can do to diminish the full spectrum of chronic diseases. And the data is convincing that regular physical activity will lower your risk of colorectal cancer. There is strong evidence for postmenopausal breast cancer, some evidence for premenopausal breast cancer, and good evidence for uterine cancer. I think as time marches on, we'll see many other cancers add to that list. We just need more data. What should you do? Strive for a minimum of 30 minutes of moderate aerobic activity that's equivalent of a brisk walk each and every day. As the optimum for cancer protection, strive for an hour of moderate aerobic activity, again, like a brisk walk each and every day. Or if you're like me and you love to kick it up and you enjoy doing vigorous aerobic activity, you can do 30 minutes of vigorous aerobic activity each and every day. Another really, really important sort of developing, sort of mind-blowing health and medical story. In addition to making sure you're physically active each and every day, you must also avoid, I feel sort of guilty, y'all, avoid prolonged sitting. And this is what we're finding out and this is really, 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 really important for you to grasp, what we're finding out is not enough to be physically active each and every day. If you want to maintain your health and avoid premature mortality and premature chronic disease and certain cancers, especially colon cancer and postmenopausal breast cancer, you must also avoid prolonged sitting. And I'll tell you that there has been some just, again, mind-blowing studies that just been published over the last 3 years. And if those studies are replicated, if we keep seeing that data, we're going to be able to say the single greatest cause of premature death in America is prolonged sitting. So this is important stuff. And there's all sorts of little strategies that you can build into your life to make you get up. Like I have a stand-up desk. It's totally transformed my life, improved the quality of my life in so many different ways. And I could go on and on about the little tips to make you get up. But please understand that prolonged sitting is deadly and is an independent established risk factor for colorectal cancer and breast cancer, okay?